Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a super vibrant, highly visual journey right into the heart of French fashion, or as they say, la mode. If you've ever daydreamed about confidently navigating a chic Parisian boutique, expressing exactly what you're looking for, or honestly just understanding how the French talk about clothing and style, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to dive into some fantastic direct source material to immerse ourselves in a really practical French shopping experience. We'll be pulling out the exact vocabulary and grammar you need to sound like a local. It's going to be efficient, highly focused, and honestly, a lot of fun. So let's dive right in. Here is our quick roadmap for today. First up, au magasin de vêtements. Second, les pronoms toniques. Third, comparer les achats. And finally, we'll wrap things up with l'évolution de la mode. All right, let's kick things off with part one, au magasin de vêtements, at the clothing store. Imagine we're walking right through the doors of a French boutique. Honestly, the absolute best way to learn is just by observing a real-world scenario. It's kind of fascinating to watch the dynamic play out between our two shoppers here, Sophie and Marianne. They're on the hunt for an evening dress, a robe de soirée. Marianne politely flags down the saleswoman, saying, "Excuse-moi, madame." Almost immediately, Sophie spots something she absolutely loves. She points and says, "Moi j'aime cette robe noire, c'est classe." I love this black dress. It's classy. But Marianne, playing the role of the honest best friend perfectly, thinks it's beautiful but maybe a little too short. She suggests a red one might actually suit Sophie better. So when Sophie asks for the prices, the saleswoman tells them the red dress is 30 euros and the black one is 60 euros. Sophie makes a very practical call here. She says the red one looks good on her, and plus, it's not expensive. Elle n'est pas chère. She goes ahead and takes the red one. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is pulling the actionable, everyday phrases out of that interaction. If you remember literally nothing else from their shopping trip today, lock these three phrases into your memory. First, when Sophie wants to try the dresses on, the saleswoman asks, "Quelle taille?" What size? You are going to hear this every single time you shop. Second, when Sophie is ready to make her final decision, she asks, "Combien ça coûte?" How much does it cost? Or, as she phrased it for the two items, "Combien les deux coûtent-elles?" And finally, when it's time to actually pay, the saleswoman asks how she's going to handle the transaction. Sophie simply opens her purse and says, "En espèces." This just means in cash. Armed with just these three little phrases, you can successfully navigate the logistics of pretty much any French store. But of course, to buy clothes, you actually need to know what they're called. Let's get a little interactive for a second. Mentally try to match the French vocabulary to the numbered garments you're seeing. Look over at number 2, that long orange piece up on the top right. That right there is un manteau, a coat. How about number 5, right in the middle? Those are pants, or un pantalon. Now look down at number 6, the green skirt. That is une jupe. And right above that skirt, number 4, the blue button down is une chemise, a shirt. By actively connecting the visual directly to the French word, you completely bypass the English translation and train your brain to just think directly in French. It's a total game changer. Moving right along to part 2, les pronoms toniques, tonic pronouns. Okay, so now that we have the vocabulary, we need the grammar to express our strong, personal opinions about these clothes. This is where we learn how the French add emphasis. In English, we might just raise our voice a bit, right? Like, "I like the black dress." But in French, you actually use a special set of pronouns to highlight exactly who is doing the feeling or the acting. Just take a look at the chart. If the subject is je, meaning I, the tonic pronoun is moi. Tu, meaning you, becomes toi. Il or he becomes lui, and so on down the list. Think back to Sophie from our boutique scenario. She didn't just casually say, "J'aime cette robe noire." She wanted to really contrast her opinion with Marianne's, so she emphatically said, "Moi, j'aime cette robe noire." Literally, me, I like this black dress. You can also use them after prepositions. For example, our source material notes the phrase, "Tu viens avec elle." You are coming with them. It's such a simple structural tool, but it instantly makes your spoken French sound so much more authentic and expressive. Part 3, comparing purchases. Excellent. So we've got our clothes, we have our strong opinions, and now it's time to evaluate our options. Because whether we're picking between a red dress and a black dress, or deciding between two completely different stores, shopping always requires comparison. On the left side, we have a beautiful classic window display, la vitrine d'un magasin. You know, you can stroll by and admire the layered outfits and all the accessories. Then on the right, we have l'achat en ligne, online shopping. This is where you're ordering an article without ever seeing it physically, just looking at a digital interface with prices hovering right next to the garments. But here is the universal truth of it all.
No matter which way you choose to shop, your brain has to compare the options. You are always going to be asking yourself, which one is cheaper? Which one is better?
Let's use a really tangible example pulled directly from our source material. We're looking at perfumes. Let's just focus on the men's fragrances for a quick second. On the left, we have Dior Homme, which costs 56.50 euros. On the right, we've got Dohrao pour Homme, which is priced at 42.90 euros. Okay, we have our two subjects and we have their prices. Now, how do we actually express this comparison in French? Well, here is the exact formula you need. To make a comparison, the comparatif, you use plus for more, moins for less, or aussi for as, plus an adjective, and then followed by que, meaning than. So taking our perfumes, Dohrao is 42.90 and Dior is 56.50. Dohrao is clearly less expensive, so we say Dohrao est moins cher que Dior Homme, less expensive than. Conversely, Dior Homme est plus cher que Dohrao, more expensive than. Now, if you want to declare something the absolute best or maybe the absolute most expensive out of everything on the shelf, you use le superlatif. You just add the definite article, le plus or la plus. For instance, if you were pointing to the absolute most comfortable clothes on a rack, you would say they are les vêtements les plus confortables. It's a very logical, structured way to evaluate all your options. Finally, part 4, l'évolution de la mode, the evolution of fashion. Let's completely zoom out for our final section. Now that we know how to describe, emphasize, and compare our clothing, let's take a second to appreciate how these garments have drastically changed over time. The French, as you know, have always been at the absolute forefront of these shifts. Take a walk down this chronological timeline with me. Back in 1900, on the far left, the style was highly conservative. Women wore long, straight dresses, robes droites et longues, and they absolutely loved to wear hats. Then we jump ahead to 1945, post-war. Suddenly, the hemlines rise dramatically. Women are dressing in short skirts, jupe courte, with very high heels, talons très hauts. Then, look at the années 70, the 1970s. The culture just shifts entirely. Women had short hair and wore jeans that were, frankly, too tight, des jeans trop serrés. And finally, the années 80, the 1980s. A massive return to the bold. They preferred short dresses, high heels, and bright, incredibly vibrant colors, des couleurs vives. It is such a fascinating look at how the exact same vocabulary we just learned completely transforms in shape and color depending on the decade. Which brings us to today. Our text points out that today, chacun s'habille à son goût. Everyone dresses entirely to their own taste. People prioritize comfort or perhaps individual expression above all else. And sometimes, that individual expression results in looking as confident and, well, colorful as this cheerful clown declaring la mode, toujours la mode. Fashion, always fashion. It's just a tasteful, humorous reminder that while trends inevitably change, the basic human desire to express ourselves through what we wear, that is a constant. We have covered a ton of ground today, from the fitting room of a French boutique to the grammatical rules of tonic pronouns and comparatives, all the way through an entire century of fashion history. But the true test of learning is always application. So I want to leave you with this final, provocative challenge. Et vous, qu'est-ce que vous portez aujourd'hui? And you, what are you wearing today? Take a second to look down at your own outfit. Are you wearing un pantalon, une chemise? Is it maybe plus confortable than what you wore yesterday? Force yourself to answer that question right now using the vocabulary we just unpacked. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep practicing those phrases.